I wanted to just talk to you today a little bit about yoga practice. Yoga practice in the West has got quite kind of dispersed, and it seems to be very, very focused on posture and perfection of posture. A lot of people are scared to go to a yoga class because they feel they're not flexible, they feel that they're going to be the only one not being able to touch their toes, everyone else is going to be standing on their head doing lotus pose, and it can be very, very uncomfortable when you're feeling kind of under pressure to do certain poses. Most of that pressure actually is probably coming from yourself, however it can be very, very uncomfortable. Yoga practice in the West has actually got very, very dispersed, if you like, if you will, from traditional yoga practice, because we are just focused on this perfect posture, perfect pose. Our goal is to do a headstand or a handstand or whatever it is. These things do come, they do come over time. It's like anything else. If you practice, if you were to practice, if you had a yoga practice every single day, over time you will be able to stand on your head. Over time you will be able to do the splits. But that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the whole soul of yoga. It has got just kind of like lost in Western yoga practice. Now, yoga practice is very much about the mind. It's very much about the dispersion of the ego in order that we can kind of shine our true self. And that really is what yoga is about. It's about quietening the mind in order for the true self to come forth. Basically, what that means is you can be the very best version of yourself when you do yoga practice. And in the yoga practice, that does include self-study. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, self-study. Self-study is also known as svadhyaya in Sanskrit in the yoga world, in the sutras of Patanjali. Patanjali was an ancient sage who systemized yoga about 2,000 years ago, but it existed before then anyway. But he kind of like put it into a system which is famous all over the world these days. Now, svadhyaya is the study of oneself. It's a study of the divine. And that all sounds very highfalutin, but it's very simple. We kind of have these conditioned responses, right? We kind of like have things that when someone presses your button, you kind of react in a certain way. You know, and you kind of have these thoughts that you keep having. So I can tell you that 90% of the thoughts that you're having today are the same ones that you had yesterday and the same ones that you had the day before that. And that's kind of conditioned response. That's what I'm talking about. These recurring behaviours, thoughts and feelings that quite honestly we don't want, we don't like. They make us feel very unpleasant, they make us feel fearful, and quite honestly they can keep you from sleeping. And that is why I'm including this in all of my methodology. I include this part of yoga practice, this part of self-study, looking at the emotions. You know, why are you feeling like that? Why are these emotions coming up? Most of the time we're kind of keeping these like pressure cooker lids. Imagine that you've got like surrounded by pressure cookers, and we're just trying to get through the day keeping the lids on of these pressure cookers because we don't want that stuff coming up. But over time that stuff just bubbles under the surface, and it's much better out than in. This is what self-study is all about. It's about quietening the mind so stuff can come out and we can just get rid of it and we can process it. That is what self-study is all about. Now, how do you do self-study? How do you get self-study into your daily practice if you've never done anything like this before and you've never done yoga before? Let me give you something that you can do, that anyone can do, that you don't need to have a yoga mat for even. You can literally sit on the chair, close your eyes, and you can just sit quietly for 10 to 15 minutes and just see if you can follow your breath. Just see if you can follow your breath. That would be a yoga practice. That's part of yoga practice. And then what you can do is anything that comes up during that time, you journal, and then you contemplate what is coming up. Why is that coming up for you? And then over the day, maybe you might choose a book that's inspirational for you. And I'm actually going to give you one, or recommend one actually, for a start, to start you off. And you can start reading that book and maybe having, 20 minutes of reading time. That actually, sitting for 10 to 15 minutes, watching the breath, journaling what's coming up, the emotions that are coming up, thinking about why that's coming up, and then read something nourishing and listen to some inspirational speaker. That would be a really, really good place to start, because that will kind of start quietening the mind. When the mind comes down, what happens is you start getting away from the ego, because the ego is there all the time. When your mind is busy, it just gets worse. So the ego judges, it compares, it keeps you fearful, it's constantly criticizing you and others. So we want to actually kind of quieten the ego down, quieten the mind down, so we can get to something deeper. Now, all of these things I talk about a lot, because some of these emotional things are the things that are stopping you from sleeping. These are the things that are kind of like pushing the buttons of the nervous system to keep you in fight or flight, to keep you kind of running, always sort of slightly nervous and stressed out. And these are often the things that we need to deal with when we're addressing a sleep issue. I hope that's helpful, and I'll see you soon. Bye.